First, I wanted to be an artist, but then I realized art was something I loved because it was larger than me. I was in college when I had this thought. Back then, I felt heavy and dense, full of stories that festered inside me because they had no way to come out, too big. I realized that what I really wanted was to live inside art. I envied the characters in movies. Everything they did mattered, everything was right. So when I was 20, I went looking for an internship with a film crew. When I found one, the director pestered me to be his girlfriend until I gave in. He put me into a short film about an angel, which I never watched. I got headaches. There was a movie in my head. But an angel does not ask to borrow her boyfriend's film equipment, so I drew a comic instead. The comic was about a young woman lured to an island by an overconfident business mogul who is very powerful because he is so dense. People grew tired of explaining themselves to him and just did what he said. I hated the comic because it was not art, it was a thing that came out of me. It reeked of my own confusion and bad decisions. I threw the comic away and broke up with the boyfriend. I was living abroad that year in France. I had one friend. Her name was Carly. Carly looked different every time I saw her. She had many boyfriends, many friends, many lives, but none of them consumed her. Carly was the first person I met who lived in a story of her own making. Before I met her, I didn't speak much. I was afraid of saying fake things the way I was afraid of making fake art. Carly was my first indication that all people make themselves up. Carly and I were lonely, so we went as often as we could to theaters that specialized in Old English language movies. Most of the movies had a heroine. Lonely, misunderstood, she had a bright light inside her that no one around her could see. It comforted me watching that misunderstood woman and knowing that she really was understood by the people watching the movie. If you draw single-panel cartoons and want to have them published, you'll need to bring them to the New Yorker on a Tuesday morning. You'll need to bring about 10. The editor of the cartoon department, Bob Mankoff, will look at them. He will not laugh. When I entered Bob's office, he looked at my cartoons, but he didn't see them. And although he was being kind, he told me to come back. It was too awful, and I didn't for another year. The third time I went in, everything was different. The office was overflowing with people. When I went into the editor's office, there was a camera running. Bob was not the stern force of nature he had always been. He was the character in a movie. The young woman who sat down in the cartoonist seat across from Bob was not exactly me, thank God. She, too, was the character in a movie. The burden of being inside yourself and not even knowing who you are is very heavy. Once it lifts, you will be surprised by how very easy it is to move, breathe, and speak. The version of the New Yorker cartoon department that the director, Leah Walchuk, caught on film is so different from the towering rock face that terrified me as a beginning cartoonist. It is happier and more open. Sometimes I wonder if I couldn't imagine being an artist when I was younger because all the artists I loved were men. A woman was supposed to be a character. It is moving to me that this all-female film crew who made me into a character also gave me my voice. I have submitted cartoons to the New Yorker every Tuesday since the first day of filming because that's what my character would do.